In 1983, the French philosopher Jean-Francois Lyotard published a book titled The Differend. At the beginning, he included what he called a reader's digest, which would allow the reader to talk about the book without actually having read it. This is a short video about my book, Jean-Francois Lyotard, Critical Lives, published by Reaction Books in London. I'm going to talk through some of the images in the book to try and give you a glimpse of what it contains. There are, in fact, 28 images in this book, but I'll talk about just 4. It's a short overview of his life and work, but I hesitate to call it a biography because he spent his life struggling against attempts to create a false overview, a false whole, to totalize things as a system of thought. But the way in that I found was via one of his last books, which was itself a biography of the French writer and one-time French Minister of Culture, André Malraux. Malraux had written his own anti-biography, his anti-memoir, a selective mix of fact and fiction, and it's in this vogue that Lyotard approached biography, creating what he termed a hypobiography of Malraux. Malraux is seen here laying out images for what he termed his imaginary museum, clashing together artworks from different periods to create new connections. And it was this disregard for convention which attracted Lyotard to Malraux as a subject. Here is Lyotard himself photographed in 1985 at the height of his fame, just after the publication of the English translation of the Postmodern Condition, which remains his best-known work. Many argue that the Postmodern Condition is unrepresentative of his thought, and it's my aim in this book to highlight other aspects of his work which are perhaps less well known. One example is the role he took in the far-left political group Socialisme Barbarie. He was a member from 1954 to 1964, during which time he wrote many articles for the journal of the same name, exploring in particular the events in Algeria during this time, the struggle for independence, which the French government refused to call a war. It was a political passion that had been ignited in Lyotard when he was teaching in Algeria, during which time he witnessed the injustices of a quasi-colonial system. The tension between systems with radically different motivations and ambitions can be seen in much of Lyotard's work, whether in philosophy, in politics, or in art, writing, film, even music. His interests were cross-discipline. A good example of this breadth of interest and concern for heterogeneous systems which don't fit together, is the exhibition he co-curated at the Pompidou Centre in Paris in 1985. Termed Les Immatériaux, which translates as the immaterials, it was an experimental event which investigated and explored the effects of new materials on the body, on the human, asking questions of the visitor, making demands on them visually, aurally, philosophically. It bewildered many visitors and excited others. There were no easily packaged answers, only provocations. And I hope in some way that my book will, dare I say, similarly excite or at least provoke. Thank you.